Welcome to BizBytes, brought to you by Com Together, helping businesses like yours build their brand through telling amazing stories to engage and grow audiences on multiple platforms. I hope you've had a chance to listen to part one of this interview on BizBytes. Stay tuned now for part two. Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit because you're obviously very driven in this space, and I know recruitment came to you later on, as you said. But where did it start off for you? What was the job that you started off, or the career path that you started off on in the early days in your youth?
Wow, I started my work at Amart All Sports at the Indooroopilly store, which is about 75 meters from my desk now, which is a bit funny. But Amart All Sports was brought over by Revel, by Revel. So we had in Queensland, we had Amart All Sports. I went there for school sent me there for career.
Work experience.
I can't remember what they called that. The term work experience. Thank you. Good Lord. And on my first day, the manager, you can't talk to customers. I just want you to watch what people do. I had a uniform to wear. Watch what people do, which was a polo. Watch what people do. Put stock on the shelves. Tidy the shelves. Blah, 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 blah. Don't talk to customers. If a customer asks you a question, say, hey, I'm on work experience and I'll go grab one of the staff. You can do that? I went, yes, I can do that. And I managed to do that from Monday through to Wednesday. And on the Thursday, it was roughly midday, and a lady and her son, the lady tapped me on the shoulder and says, excuse me, can you show me where the soccer shorts are? She's looking to purchase some soccer shorts. And I was putting them out. I had this big box of soccer shorts that were about to go out. I said, yeah, they're just over there. But this whole box that I've got in front of me is going to be soccer shorts. So we're going to have new styles, new sizes, all these sorts of things, blah, 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 blah. And she had this sort of look on her face like, oh, do you mind if we have a look in the box? Because it was, nothing. It was just some different stuff. And I went, yeah, for sure, and the intrigue was real. So opened up the box and we found his size and whatnot with this particular diamond pattern shorts, and he loved them, and it lit him up and it lit me up. This kid, this kid would have been 7 or 8 and I was, 15, grade 10, and it lit me up. And that's when I went, oh, I've always got a kick out of helping people. I've had good experience working in like the Endeavour Foundation and things like that, just as an experience, just to help out. And it fills my cup. I keep saying that, but, bear with me. But anyway, so I walked this woman over to the socks. I said, we've got all these socks on special over here. Oh, we've got new balls. And she ended up walking out with about $300 worth of gear. And I'm helping her carry all this stuff up to the counter. And the sales manager pops his head out of the curtain from the back room and says, Terry, with the come hither look on his face. And he just walked away, and I followed him into his office, and he said, shut the door, sit down. And I thought, oh God, here we are, I'm in trouble. And he said, what did I say to you on Monday? I said, don't talk to customers. And he goes, but you talked to her, didn't you? And I went, yeah. And he goes, and I saw her carry all that gear up to the front counter. And I went, yeah. And he goes, it was about $300 worth of stuff. And I went, oh, okay. And he goes, what do you think you work here, mate? And I went, no, I'm sorry, I don't work here. And he goes, well, do you want to? I went, what? He said, do you want to? And I went, yeah. And he threw a polo at me, like one of the workers' polos. But there you go. You now work here. You start now. Can you work till 9? It was a Thursday. I remember ringing Mum. I was crying. I rang Mum and said, I've got this job. Can you come pick me up in Indooroopilly? And she's like, oh, that's wonderful. So, and that started off my career in sales. It was a fluke. It was that buzz that I got, though, from helping that kid, from helping that lady and her child. That light was incredible.
So I almost had the polar opposite to you. So my first job was in Grace Brothers, obviously now Myers these days.
Wow. Yeah.
And working in a very small store. And I was working in the menswear section, and a woman came up to me and said, oh, can you tell me where whatever section was? And I said, sure. And I started walking her towards that section. Now, it wasn't a big store, but I started walking her towards that section. And I got told off by my manager afterwards, you're allowed to point in the general direction. You're not allowed to engage with them. You're not allowed to take them on that journey. It was just that whole idea of customer service was just not part of what they wanted to offer at the time. I don't know what the rules are with Myers these days. That was a very, very long time ago. But it was.
I think the rules at Myers these days are to make sure that no one can find you to ask you for help.
Well,
I
there
think
might be
that's
that
the
as
rule
well.
now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but it's just and it's almost like I knew I didn't want to be in sales anyway at that point, that it wasn't my thing, and nor was that sort of front-facing retail idea. So, it's interesting how those early jobs really do take you on a bit of a journey, and you've definitely been on a significant one. And it's interesting how there's that parallels from what turned you on in that gig to what's you're doing now. There's a direct comparison, even though you've gone on this journey of going through a whole bunch of other things and seemingly choosing the recruitment thing in a random way, but it almost chose you in a random way right from the very beginning.
I spent it was I left AIM Motorsports and then spent the best part of 20 years in cars, BMW, Audi, little dabble in Ferrari and Maserati and whatnot. And it was my time in the car industry that changed so drastically. The car industry changed so dramatically for me. It went from, and I was very lucky to when I first started in this industry, to work with some really good operators, some warm operators, some managers and whatnot, who understood that consulting was the way forward and selling was not. I've always had an issue with selling, so to speak. I think that there's just like a wall of sandpaper between the client and the salesperson. It's very difficult to peel back with selling. But the industry went from having an opportunity to consult and manage and really, as I keep saying, find solutions and help people and to get that kick. It changed to a churn and burn industry. It was sell or burn, and I went from talking to clients to filling out spreadsheets and all this sort of garbage, and I understand that filling out spreadsheets are important, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't. I gave it about 5 years too many. I really did. It's that whole car sales space now is entirely different to what it used to be, and is not a place. That's why I said earlier I put it in my rearview mirror, pun intended. So I yearned for a position consulting, looking after people, finding solutions, and I read an article actually in the Australian about recruitment and where it's going, and I thought, maybe that's for me. I actually looked at a number of not-for-profit groups as well, to see what I can do in that sort of space, and I just sort of fell on recruitment. I had my initial start to recruitment was pretty awful, and then when I worked for a different company that really understood that character is important, and that we understand that we're dealing in people's lives, take that on board and keep it front of mind. That sort of helped me understand that care and regard was their MO. And, it gave me an opportunity to really realize that there are, like I said earlier, there are holes in recruitment in Australia. And we work from within those holes, intrinsically from within those holes, to offer a different service. A lot of what we do for our clients in the way of service is done behind the scenes with our candidates. You know what I mean? And by virtue of the fashion of which we look after our candidates, and the sort of, like I said before, the care and regard and the questioning that is involved with our candidates helps our clients dodge bullets, and helps them find staff with stickability that'll hang around and grow within their business, and by virtue of that, grow their business as well. And that's the 360. That's, for me, that's the full circle of recruitment, the way it should be. It should be win-win. It shouldn't be any less than that. And, the end result is long-term employment, and a brighter future for both the candidate and the client. Not just, we got a guy out, see if that works, fingers crossed. Oh, no, that one didn't work. Well, let's try another one. And you end up with all this uncooked spaghetti all over the floor and nothing sticking, you know what I mean? It's something that we want to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way that your business operates, and that I think being client-centric makes a huge difference, or candidate-centric, I should say. I think it makes a huge difference the way you operate, and the idea of making sure that the people that are involved on either side of the fence are excited, turned on, have their cup filled, as you've termed it, is such an important differentiation and so fundamental, I think, these days. With so many people making lifestyle-based decisions on the kinds of jobs that they want to have, that re-examining of priorities that I think really happened as a result of the COVID period. It's ripe to have an agency such as yours that's there, that is thinking about things in a different way, and has obviously been brought about by a huge amount of experience that you've had over a long period of time. And even though it may seem random that you've ended up in recruitment, I would suggest that it's probably was always going to happen as a result of those early
I've sat
days.
and thought that exactly. I've sat and thought about that myself.
And look, and I can, and at this point, kind of to end the podcast, I often ask the guests about the aha moments that their clients have, and what you hope that others will realize and would realize a little bit sooner that they're going to have. And I think it's pretty obvious, though, in your case, that the aha moment happens when the right people end up in the right spaces, and that it's not just a matter of ticking boxes, that it's actually taking the time to have human contact and understanding, and bothering to align people correctly.
Yeah, I think that aha moment for me was when we first started RecruitForce. There was a client that I'd been dealing with for a number of years with previous agency that I was with, and they have just general labourers, and I like their business. I'm actually pretty selective who we work with. I think that whoever I work with needs to look after the candidates that we send forward. I find onboarding process to be abysmal across the country, unfortunately. But having said that, a lot of businesses don't know their onboarding processes are awful, because they don't really know what onboarding processes are. But this particular client that I had has wonderful onboarding processes. They have a good business. They take on labourers. You don't really need to be skilled in any area, but and within their factory, which is a very clean factory, there are about 7 or 8 different points around that factory that you need to learn, and you don't spend any longer than 2 weeks on any one point. So you get to move around, So for me, that resonated. For me, someone with my sort of personality, I could never sit on a machine or sit in one area doing the same thing, day in, day out, hour after hour, day after day, month after month. I couldn't do it. It would drive me crazy. So I just assumed everyone else was the same way. I've since learned that is not the case. But this particular agency, when the previous one went down and we started RecruitForce, I approached them and said, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. They needed, they always need 6 or 7 people, because there's people leaving quite often. So the revolving door out the front for employment spins pretty quickly at this place. And the only reason is they don't pay quite as much as other people do. And they've found that people will sniff out $1 more an hour and then leave, and then end up coming back later on going, well, the work here is a lot better and you guys are nicer. Can I come back to work? But that's a different story. But my aha moment early on in the piece was when it came together for me. So when I make sure that our P's and our PC balances are not tipped, that make sure the scales are nice and even. So my promises and my production capabilities. So I approached this particular business and said, hey, look, this is where we are. This is what we're doing now. And he said, we need 7 people. They've already had a couple of recruitment agencies they were dealing with. So we were just on the top, you know what I mean? We were just another option for them. And over the space of about 3 months, I put 2 people forwards. So we had a meeting. They called a meeting. The general manager called a meeting. I was involved in this meeting, and she said, "Hey, we've approached you and for staff, and you've put 2 people forward in a fairly long period of time. We want to know what the problem is. We'd like you to give us some feedback just to help us attract staff." And I said, I don't think it's about attracting your staff. I think it's more about sort of keeping your staff. But when it comes to attracting your staff, that's what I do. And she said, yeah, you've only put 2 people forwards in 3 months. Are we just a side gig for you? Or I said, well, okay, how many other recruitment agencies do you have? And they said, we have 2 others. And I said, how many have they put forward? And they've put forward, I think it was like 8 and 10 each. And I said, so how many of the 8 and 10 that they've put forward are still working for them? There was 1 between them. There was 1 between them. So they were doing the throwing the cooked spaghetti up against the wall to make sure it's cooked. They were doing that. So, and I said, so the 2 people that I've put in, how are they going? One of them's the supervisor in there now. But at that time, he was just going great guns. And there was a lady that we put into their sewing department, and then she was running the sewing department very quickly. I said, so that's the caliber of people I'm putting forwards. I'm putting forwards everyone who I believe will help your business, but I'm putting forwards people who I think your business will help at the same time. Otherwise, I'll give you people who will work fabulously and they'll do a great job for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they will leave themselves to go somewhere else.
Mm.
And the look on her face wasn't, the look on this lady's face was, wow, yeah, I absolutely 100% see what you mean. That makes sense to me now. And that was my first aha moment, to go, how my processes work. What we do works. I'm never going to find someone 15 staff. If they need 25 staff quickly, I'm not going to find them 25 staff quickly. I could throw 25 candidates at them reasonably quickly, but I'm not going to find them 25 staff quickly. So I don't let my promises, my production capabilities get all mixed up and ruin my reputation. I will say to them, we'll send you the people we think you can help and the people who can help you. And that may not be as many people as you think, but my people will stick. There'll be no suck it and see approach. That sort of suck it and see approach ruins a reputation. A reputational damage is probably the number one killer of recruitment agencies in Australia, other than total incompetency. But, so that for me, that was my first aha moment. I have aha moments like that quite often. And it's nice to see that I was part of sitting down from the beginning on a kitchen table and writing down the rules from the beginning, and to see them come to fruition and to see clients go, wow, and that's different. Like, it's a breath of fresh air. And that those sorts of aha moments are part of what makes this industry worth it for me, because this is a tough industry to be in. It's a tough industry to stay in. It's a tough industry to succeed in, honestly. And we're still here and we're strong, and we won't change anything that we do going forward. So our growth may not be as quick as a lot of other recruitment agencies, but it's strong. And my moral compass is facing the right direction every time I leave this building, and that's important to me. And our growth will.
I think it's what's really interesting about this approach that occurs to me as well is that recruitment, from my experience as well, and I've dealt with a few recruitment agencies in a professional capacity as well over the years, and often, as you say, it is about, right, they're constantly getting new recruiters, they're constantly, it's a churn and burn kind of scenario in the way that they operate, as well as what they are divvying out for various businesses. And they work on the basis that people will stick around in a job for 18 months, 2 years, and then they get another crack at recruiting, and it's kind of built on that. But what I see is the difference is that if you get the right people in the right place, they're going to stay longer. But not only are they going to stay longer, they're actually going to enjoy what they're doing and contribute more. So the opportunity for the business to grow is far greater. And the opportunity for you as a recruiter is to recruit for new positions, not for the same one that you filled a year or two prior. And I think that it is a real shift in the way people, in the way it's being done. And look, and there are, the other recruitment companies exist for a reason, and that's fine. Yeah, but I think the people that want something more from the whole process and want to find something that they're going to stay in for a while, and equally have someone that you can recruit that's going to stay in a while, that's going to marry up with your business, is a much sounder approach to it all. And I think that's a huge win to be able to do that. I know the business is still relatively young, but it's you've been going for a few years now, and
2 years.
It's full credit to you to doing this differently and having the foresight to be doing it. And I really appreciate you sharing the journey with us on how you got there, but also on the journey that your clients are having as well, because I think that's hugely important for people to understand and appreciate. And what we're going to do, as we do with all of our guests, we're going to include lots of details with our show notes on how people can get in touch with you and connect with your agency, and you personally as well, for any number of reasons that people will want to contact you. So we'll do that as part of our show notes, and hope that everyone out there that's looking for someone on whatever side of the fence you're sitting to have a different approach to recruitment, definitely encouraging you to get in contact with Terry and his business. I think it'll make a huge difference to you. So thank you so much for being a fabulous guest on BizBytes. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been good fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for listening in. And also a little tip, as Terry mentioned a little bit earlier on a couple of times, Neil Fairley was one of his business contacts, or really the owner of the business. And Neil also was on the program a little while ago, so please do look up the episode with Neil as well, because his is also a fascinating journey. And of course, stay tuned for coming episodes of BizBytes. BizBytes is brought to you by ComTogether for all your marketing needs, so you can build your brand, engage audiences on multiple platforms. Go to comtogether.com.au, follow the links to book an appointment for a free consultation.